Welcome to the Aligned Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Pooja Venkatraman. I'm a double Harvard grad, former BCG consultant, and now an executive coach for high achievers. On this podcast, we are going to tackle the 4 key things that you need to figure out in order to live a life of aligned ambition. Those 4 things are stress, productivity, performance, and purpose. We are going to make sure that you're driving your car in the direction that you actually want to go. That is the purpose part. We're also going to make sure that your progress along the road is consistent and effective. That's the productivity and performance part. And we're going to make sure that the fuel you're pouring into your tank isn't so noxious that it's filling your car with fumes and making the whole ride miserable. That is the stress part. Because if you can tackle those 4 things, stress, productivity, performance, and purpose, you can build the life and the career that you actually want. Not the life you think you're supposed to have, not the life that burns you out or doesn't fit quite right, but the life you actually want. One that fulfills your biggest ambitions and unleashes your fullest potential without sacrificing your sanity, your relationships, your authenticity, or your paycheck. A life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. That's what aligned ambition is all about. Let's get started. Hey guys, Happy New Year. I hope you're having a great first full week of 2026, getting slowly back into the groove, coming back to work. Hope you guys had great vacations, holidays, whatever you were up to over the break. And then you're probably thinking about your intentions for the new year, getting back into the groove at work, figuring out what the heck is going on, and gearing up for an awesome first quarter. I'm so excited to be talking to all of you guys. Couple of things that we're going to cover in this episode today. First, I'm going to cover some administrative changes in terms of how my kind of content production is going to be working going forward. I'm still going to be putting out lots of content all the time, but I'm changing up some of the structure of it and how I'm going to be doing it. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that. I also want to talk to you and why I'm doing those things. I'm also going to talk to you guys about the new name of this podcast, and the new name I've sort of debuted in a bunch of different places on my Substack, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, etc. This is called Aligned Ambition. That is the name that we're going with, and that is the topic that we're going to be talking about. As you hear me talk about it, you're going to be like, this is pretty much the same stuff you always talk about, because the topics aren't changing. We're going to talk about all the same things. But I loved kind of pulling it together under this umbrella of aligned ambition, what that means, when you need it, all of those things. So I'm going to get into that. So first, okay, let's talk about what we're changing up. So even as you're hearing me talk right now, right, you can probably tell this isn't scripted. I have some notes and things that I've written down, but I am talking off the cuff. And that is one of the first things we're changing up. So the way that I normally put out my content is I write an email newsletter first. So I write up everything in a Substack post, I sentence by sentence, everything is scripted out. And then I record a video of me saying everything I wrote out loud, and then that comes on the podcast. And then I also put that content on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, etc. So it's kind of writing the email first, me reading it in a scripted way, and then it goes out. That's how I normally create content. And I was doing that, either creating new content every day or, recycling kind of old content that I had, but aiming to put out a new piece of content every single day on all of the feeds. How we're changing that up is that we are now going podcast first. So what that means is for every episode, I'll have some notes. I have a bunch of notes that I've written up of what I'm going to talk to you guys about, but it's going to be me talking off the cuff, right? It's not going to be me scripting every single thing. It's just going to be me kind of freestyling, saying whatever it is that I want to say based on the notes that I've written up. And then I'm going to convert that into some posts on social media, into the email newsletter, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's going to feel a little different as you're listening to me, and the email newsletter is going to feel a little different, all those things. I'm going to start out doing 1 new podcast episode per week. That's what we're starting with. I'm going to be recording a backlog as I go. And then if the backlog gets big enough, then I will start releasing multiple episodes a week. I would love to release like 2 or 3 episodes a week, honestly, if I could. But I want to make sure that I've kind of got my recording rhythm down. I've got enough of a backlog that doesn't, completely mess me up in terms of just how much work I have to do and bring me out. But we're going to start out with once a week, which means you'll see a new podcast episode in your feed every week. You'll see an email newsletter kind of letting you know that the podcast is out, as well as kind of doing a written summary of the podcast every week. And then I'll still be posting on social media every day. So that's what's changing up. You're also just going to see me being like a little bit more loose and conversational because I haven't written everything up ahead of time. And so I'm just kind of speaking as I go. Let me talk about why I'm making this change. There's a couple of different reasons. One is to just create a little bit more time for me. It takes a bunch of time to write a new article every single day. It takes, an hour or two. And then I also kind of do the back end processing to put it out. It's a lot of time that goes into my day. And so on top of client calls and then a couple hours of that was pretty much taking up my whole work day. And what I didn't have time for was doing new things to kind of get in front of new people, right? Grow my audience, market in different ways, try different things. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to try in my business. If you've been following along a little bit, you may have heard me talk about getting through 100 failures as fast as possible. Where I'm like, if I want to take my business to the next level, what I don't need to do is strategize and think really hard and lock myself away for, a strategy retreat or pay a strategy consultant tens of thousands of dollars to tell me what to do. What I need to do is get through 100 failures as fast as possible. I need to come up with ideas and just do them and see what works, see what sticks, right? Because nobody has the answer. Even I don't have the answer, but the actions will create the data that will give me the answer. And so as I started on my 100 failure journey, the number one limiter that I ran into was I was like, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time and energy to get through these 100 failures as fast as I want to, because just the workload of running my business as usual business, my BAU business, was taking so much time, doing my client calls, doing consult calls and coffee chats with potential clients, and then writing new content every day. I was like, that's it. I'm pretty much maxed out. I have very little time to kind of push forward the 100 failures. And so one of the ways I'm kind of releasing pressure in my schedule is that I am making the content creation much faster. Right. So instead of me having to write something up and then record it and then create the Canva files and everything that I do, I'm just talking. I was like, you know what? I can just put some bullets together and talk. And I can put out 20, 30 minutes of content without even thinking, just by talking. I have a couple of little groups. I have a group of 2 other coach friends of mine, and then I have another little group of coach friends where we send each other video updates, on a daily or weekly basis, just telling people what we're up to. And when I do those video updates, mine will run 20 minutes without me even intending them to run 20 minutes. I just get started talking and then I can't stop talking. And I have so much to say. And so I was like, wait, that's basically a podcast. I can put out a podcast of a good amount of length pretty quickly without a ton of prep. And so then it's not going to take me 2 hours to write a whole article. I can just say what it is I want to say much, much faster. So I was like, that's going to create a lot more time in my schedule compared to spending, 10 to 15 hours a week putting out content. So that was one reason. But the other reason, that's why it's good for me, right? I also want it to be good for you guys. And I think the reason it's so great for you guys was I was like, this is basically what I do in client calls. Right? This is the paid product or a version of the paid product, because I don't know what my clients are going to bring to me. We don't necessarily, I have a game plan for the session. I prep every session. I have, questions, directions, and things that we could go, but it's not like I come in and do a scripted presentation, right? During a client session. I very much just come in and say, hey, what's going on? What's on your mind? And then I'm reacting live to whatever people are saying. And I'm giving them concepts, frameworks, tools, etc., thought suggestions live, off the cuff. And I was like, I think that's really valuable. That's actually what people pay for. That's what delivers the transformation, is my live reactions to people's situations, not me having spent 2 hours beforehand scripting a perfect presentation. And so I was like, if you get to listen to me talking live off the cuff in these podcasts, that I think is equally, if not more effective in terms of delivering the transformation I want to deliver to you if you're enrolled in my free coaching program, which is what I think of my marketing as. It's my free coaching program, this podcast, my Substack, all my socials. It's all just my free help for all of you guys. And I was like, I think me speaking off the cuff and just having a lot of fun and, giving you my thoughts and riffing is equally effective, if not more effective, than me scripting everything out and then saying it, because that's already what I do in client sessions. And I was also like, I think it's going to be even easier for you guys to engage with and listen to and take in, because it's super easy to just plug it into your ears and keep me in your ears while you're running chores, doing the groceries, getting ready in the morning. It's so easy to just listen to someone talk conversationally. So I think it's going to be easier for you guys to consume. It's going to be equally, if not more effective in terms of giving you a transformation, giving you help while you're listening to me. And I was like, this is really good sampling. Right? Listening to me on these podcast episodes, pretty similar to how it feels when you work with me as a coach, right? It's just that when you work with me as a coach, you say some stuff about your life, and then you also hear me talk and give you my thought suggestions, my analysis, my advice is not quite the right word, but more of just helping you break down what's going on in your mind. And then kind of what are different ways to approach your situation. That's like me listening to me on the podcast is very, very similar to how I am in a coaching session. And so it's also great sampling for you as you're kind of trying to figure out, would you want to work with me? Am I the right person to help you at this point in your career? This is like the Costco sample, of coaching, right? If you ever walk through Costco and there's somebody like handing out pieces of a chocolate bar, and you try a little piece of the chocolate bar, and that just helps you decide, do you want that chocolate or not? That's basically this. And it's so much easier to make that decision when you just try a piece of the chocolate bar compared to if someone was to give you a whole lecture about the chocolate bar, right? And say, oh, but it's single source and it's rose flavored and it's this and it's that. And you're like, let me just try a piece of chocolate bar, and then I'll know whether or not I want it. That's exactly what this podcast is going to feel like for you. It's just going to be samples of what it's like to work with me, samples of my brain, my perspective, how I tend to break situations down, the kinds of suggestions I'm going to give to you. So that's why we're going to a podcast first content creation strategy, where I'm going to put out a new podcast episode. We're going to start with weekly. We may go to more frequently if I'm able to create a backlog fast enough. And we're doing that because it is easier and faster for me. It creates more time in my schedule so I can try more marketing experiments, more audience growth experiments, and get through my 100 failures as fast as possible so I can grow my business. And I actually think it's even better for you guys because it's easier to take in, easier to listen to, easier to just keep me in your ears. It's equally, if not more effective than sort of the written scripted content that I've been doing. And it's a fantastic sample of like what coaching with me is like. So you can very easily and quickly assess whether or not you'd want to work with me. So those are some of the administrative updates. Speaking of sampling, I'm just going to give you guys a separate example, just to kind of give you a sense of how great sampling is and how you can think about what, like, using these podcast episodes to decide whether or not you want to work with me or with a different coach. I'm going to give you an example of another coach that I considered working with and the excellent sampling experience that she gave me. So this is a coach I follow. She's a business coach for coaches. She has a bunch of different programs. I tried a few of them. I generally really like her. And then she was doing a certain program where she was going to teach you a certain methodology of coaching, right? And she was like, this method's so amazing. And I think everyone should learn it. So she had a bunch of marketing around it. And then what she did were essentially these sampling sessions, right? Where she basically would spend an hour or an hour and a half in a class demonstrating what this methodology of coaching was that she was going to teach people. And so it was not a sale, right? She was not selling. She was not marketing. She was not like dangling the carrot in front of you and being like, this is what you'll get when you, like, if you join my program. She just gave you the carrot. She gave you the carrot, and she gave you a potato, and she gave you a turnip. She just gave you the actual samples. And I remember I walked away from that experience. I, through the sampling, was like, oh, this doesn't resonate with me. This methodology of coaching, what it is that she's kind of selling here, it's not that it's bad. It just doesn't resonate with me. I'm not going to buy this, right? And it really improved my mental relationship with the coach. It made it even stronger because I had the experience of like clarity. Total clarity, total certainty. I came in, I sampled her product through the way that she had set it up, and I was like, I'm 100% sure this is not for me. And I felt so freaking good about it. And so that's why I think sampling is so important. And that's why I'm excited to kind of be doing the podcast in this more unscripted, riffing kind of way and be giving you guys these like Costco samples of what it's like to work with me, because I want you to feel that sense of clarity and certainty, right? My agenda is not that everybody in the world works with me. I would love to work with you. I have so much admiration and so much love for all my clients. I love the client work that I do. And what I'm trying to deliver in this free work, besides lots of free transformation, lots of free help, and just making as much of like a ripple effect of change in the world as possible through all my free content. That's one thing I'm trying to deliver. The other thing I want to deliver is clarity and certainty for you. I want you to experience as close as possible of what it's actually like to work with me, what it's like to coach with me, so that you can experience what I experienced with that other coach, which is like so much clarity, so much certainty of like either hell yes or hell no. This is absolutely for me. This is absolutely not for me. This is for me later. This is for me for this topic, whatever it is. But I think that gift of clarity is so fantastic. I don't even care if it's clarity that you don't want to work with me. That's a gift too, right? If I nudge you over to what you actually need, the person, the resources, the tools that you actually need, I think that's fantastic. I think I've done a great job in helping you along in your journey. But I just want to talk a little bit about that. I think sampling is so important because it gives you that amazing gift of clarity and certainty. No more spinning, no more open questions in your mind. You're like, yes, I know this is for me, or I know this isn't for me, or I know this is for me in 3 months, or I know this is for me only for this topic, whatever it is, and you can feel super settled. So those are all the reasons I'm really excited to be shifting to podcast first instead of kind of written Substack first. Content strategy, and you're going to see me kind of in this more loose conversational way, and it's going to be a little faster for me as well. So that's kind of update number one, just from an administrative perspective, what you're going to be seeing differently this year on the content side. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the new name that I have for the podcast. So it's called Aligned Ambition. So over the break, I was doing a bunch of kind of like strategy, kind of planning, tactical work over the break. It was an awesome, awesome time for me. Honestly, I had no plans whatsoever. I hung out with my family and things like that, but I had a lot of time where I just, no calls, no plans, just really deeply immersing in the business and thinking about what I wanted to do next, which was exactly what I wanted for the holidays. It was absolutely perfect. And part of what I was doing in that time was I was updating my website, right? Updating kind of how I talk about who I help, what I help with, what are the problems I solve, what are the results I deliver, all those things. And as I was doing that, I landed on this phrase of aligned ambition. And I was like, I think that really captures the big picture of what we're trying to do here, right? It's like there's all these tactical things we work on, right? I help people level up where they are and kind of get to the next level or step into a new level of leadership in their current job. I help them kind of reorganize their operating model once they become new parents, or have another kind of major work stream open up in their personal life. And they're like, I need to deliver the same great results at work, but with way less time. I help them do that. I help people get clear on their next career step and kind of make really clear-minded decisions about what they want to do next. I help them actually navigate the transition to that next step and do the networking and the interviewing and the pitching and all those things. So there's all these kind of tactical career things, right? There's all these career problems we work on. With my coaching clients. But I was like, the umbrella that everything falls under, right? Like the bigger picture thing that we're really trying to do is this concept of aligned ambition, which to me is you're trying to fulfill your ambitions. You're trying to do the big things that you are here to do in this world. You are not sacrificing on quality, on scope, on impact, on just ambition of the big things that you're here to do. We're still doing that. And we're going to do it in your way. We're not going to do it in a way that burns you out, in a way that doesn't quite fit right and doesn't feel like aligned, doesn't feel like it fits like a comfortable sweater. We're not going to do it in a way that involves sacrifices that you are not prepared to make, that you don't want to make. We're not going to do it in a way that flattens out your personality and doesn't feel like you. And we're not going to do it in a way where you don't make the amount of money that you want to make, right? So we're going to make sure that your sanity, your relationships, your authenticity, and your paycheck are all preserved as you go after the big ambitions and the big things that you are here to do. That for me is the essence of aligned ambition and all these little things we work on, right? Leveling up where you are, balancing your career and your personal life, figuring out what you want to do next in your career, navigating the transition to that next step. All of those things are just arenas in which to practice aligned ambition, right? Which is I'm going to go after big things. I'm going to do high quality, big things in the world. And I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to do it how I'm supposed to. I'm not going to do it because of peer pressure, what everyone else is doing. I'm not going to do it because like it's based on a should. I'm going to do it my way. It's going to be the fullest expression of who I am. And it's going to meet the incredibly high quality and impact and ambition bars that I have. And so that to me felt like it really captured like the essence of like what we're all aiming for, me and my clients, me and all the work that I'm doing and all the help that I'm providing. It's really about having that win-win of I'm going to do big things and I'm going to do it my way. I was chatting with a client recently and she literally kind of held up her hands in these two circles. And she was like, I feel like I'm trying to find the intersection between success and fulfillment. And I was like, yes, so that is absolutely correct. And she's kind of doing a big level up in her career. And so we were talking through how we could work together to kind of support her in this like level up of new leadership. And we were talking about, yes, at the end of the day, it's all about that intersection, success and fulfillment, both in career and in your personal life. Right. And so making sure that all the pieces of that puzzle come together and it's not just you nailing success in your personal life and then being like, wait, but I got 7 divorces and my kids never talk to me anymore. Most people I know don't want that to happen. Most people I know want to have an amazing personal life as well as having an amazing career. And so that to me is also a huge part of aligned ambition is being ambitious in the realms that you want to be ambitious about, right? Because I think that's one of the sort of fallacies about ambition in our society is that ambition exists in your career, right? Ambition means getting into the corner office, being a partner at McKinsey, being a VP of product at Google, making $1 bajillion, right? That's ambition. And then everything else is like your personal life and like your hobbies and like cute stuff that you do, right? But it's not real. It doesn't count. Whereas I think aligned ambition is all about saying, I can be ambitious about anything. I can be ambitious about the kind of marriage I want to have and how strong I want my partnership to be. I can be ambitious about the kind of parent I want to be and how present I want to be and the way that I parent and the kind of relationship I build with my kids. I can be ambitious about my health and fitness and how I meet those goals and the kind of like health regimen and routines that I use. I can be ambitious about about sobriety. I can be ambitious about my social life. I can be ambitious about my community. I can be ambitious about the causes that I'm advancing in the world. I can be ambitious about my hobbies, and that doesn't mean monetizing my hobbies. It means being ambitious about having a rich life full of different hobbies, right? And so I think that's also a key part of aligned ambition, is not only doing the big things that you're here to do, doing them in your way, but also really aiming yourself at the things that you're excited to aim yourself at, right? And kind of saying, I'm going to bring my ambition, my drive, my hard work to all the realms of my life that I want to. It doesn't have to just be narrowly limited to the career lane. I can be ambitious about anything, and I can build a life of aligned ambition, a life and a career of aligned ambition, so that I can do the big things I want to do in every realm of my life and do it my way, right? Not do it in a way that feels like I'm squishing myself into a box or pushing myself down a path that I'm not excited about, but truly, truly do it in my way and balance everything across the different realms of my life. So that to me is really the nature of aligned ambition. And it is the thing that we're aiming for. As we solve all of these little tactical career and life problems, that's the thing we're ultimately aiming for. It's that Venn diagram, intersection, success, and fulfillment. It's that Venn diagram of like, I want to do the big things I'm here to do, and I'm going to do it my way. Right. So that is, just wanted to kind of give some explanation of like what I mean when I say aligned ambition. As I was writing all this website copy, I was getting so excited about it. And I was like, this is it. This is the thing that like all these past 4+ years of running the coaching practice, all the clients that I've worked with, I was like, this is really the essence of what we've been doing all along. And it just gets expressed right along a lot of different kinds of problem solving. So that's what aligned ambition is. I also talk a little bit about what are the key ingredients of aligned ambition, because by the way, I went ahead like a consultant and added a bunch of structure to this, right? So we have the big North Star of aligned ambition. I also broke it down to what are the 4 key ingredients of aligned ambition, and also what are the 3 key moments that people often tend to need some coaching and need some intervention to help them keep it on track. And also why aligned ambition needs to be continuously maintained, right? And it's not just something that you set and forget once. So there's lots of structure underneath, the big North Star. So to me, the 4 key ingredients of aligned ambition are stress, productivity, performance, and purpose. Okay, and I'm going to go through them backwards. So first, I want to talk about purpose. To me, this is making sure that you are driving your car in the direction that you actually want to go, right? Not the direction you think you're supposed to go, not the direction you think you have no choice but to go, right? Not the direction everybody else is going in, but the direction you actually want to go. This is so simple, so difficult, and so profound. It is the most important thing, is that purpose question of like, to have a life of aligned ambition, to have a career of aligned ambition. Step 1, you have to be going in the direction you actually want to be going, right? And if you're not going in that direction, you either need to figure out why you actually do want to go in that direction, why it does make sense to you, do the mindset work to make it what you want, or you have to believe your brain when it tells you, I don't want to be going in this direction. You have to figure out what direction you actually want to be going in and how to make that viable and how to make that work. So that's the first ingredient of aligned ambition: purpose, driving your car in the direction that you actually want to go. That's key ingredient number 1. Key ingredients number 2 and 3 are productivity and performance, right? That to me is the equivalent of saying, as you're driving your car in the direction that you actually want to go, are you making consistent and effective progress along that road? So are you being productive, right? Consistent? Are you spending as much time working or parenting or doing, like working on your health and fitness, investing in your marriage, whatever it might be? Are you spending enough time in those things? And then the performance piece of it is that time effective, right? Can you make it more effective? Do you need to level up, change your approach? Whatever it is you're doing, but that is making sure that your progress along the road is as consistent and effective as possible. Those are ingredients 2 and 3 of a life of aligned ambition. And then ingredient number 4 is stress. And that to me is making sure that you're not pouring this like noxious fuel into your car that is then like filling your whole car with fumes and making the journey super miserable, right? Because you can be going in the direction you want to go. You can be making effective and consistent progress on that road, but you can be fueling your car with like the crappiest low grade fuel, that's stress and anxiety and inadequacy and insecurity and fear. And that fuel, I want you to imagine like you're sitting in a car and there's just black smoke, right? Like inside the car, and it like smells like gasoline. It smells like burnt rubber and plastic. And you're like, I don't even care if I get to this gorgeous destination. And I don't even care if I get there so consistently and so effectively and so beautifully, because this journey has been miserable, right? I hate smelling these horrible fumes in the car the entire time. And my car is burning out and I just want to jump out of the car and give up on everything. That's the stress component, right? It's really about putting high quality fuel into your car, being fueled by security, inner authority, flow, a sense of purpose, a sense of clarity, not being fueled by stress, anxiety, fear, insecurity, a sense of restriction, limitation, scarcity, etc. Right? Putting that high quality fuel into your car so that your journey towards the place you actually want to go and your progress that's consistent and effective is also enjoyable and fun for you. So those are the 4 key ingredients of a life and a career of aligned ambition. They are stress, productivity, performance, and purpose. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in all these different podcast episodes. I'll probably often flag for you at the beginning of an episode, hey, today we're talking about stress, we're talking about performance, we're talking about purpose, productivity, whatever it is. But I just wanted to give you that zoomed out view, the North Star that we're aiming for, aligned ambition. You're going to do the big things that you are here to do. You're going to do them in the high quality way that you want to do them, and you're going to do it your way, without the side sacrifices that you don't want to make. We're going to preserve your authenticity, your paycheck, your relationships, your sanity. We're going to make it happen. Success and fulfillment, they are coming together. That's the North Star we're aiming for. And then breaking down for you the 4 key ingredients of a life and career of aligned ambition, the 4 things you have to manage, which are stress, productivity, performance, and purpose. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about like why this has to be consciously and continuously created in your life, right? A life of aligned ambition doesn't just happen. It does not happen accidentally in the same way that a successful business doesn't just happen accidentally. And it's also not something you set and forget, right? Where you're just like, hey, we did a strategy retreat. We went away for 2 weeks. We like decided everything and now just close our eyes and the business is created, right? Same thing for your life. This really has to be consciously and continuously created for 3 reasons. One is societal defaults, right? Your brain is very sensitive to what is everybody else doing. What are your neighbors doing? What are the people on LinkedIn doing? What are your alumni from your college or your grad school doing? Your alumni from the previous places that you've worked? What is everybody else doing? Things like, when you go to a party, when you go home to visit your family and you tell people what they're doing, what their reaction is, how impressed they seem to be, what everyone else says they're doing, how impressed people seem to be about that. We are social creatures, right? We cannot rise above this tendency to just be sensitive to what everyone else is doing and what's our relative status and standing, kind of according to the rules of that peer group, right? Those implicit unconscious rules of the peer group. That is always going to be a force that's kind of tugging at your brain, right? Pulling you away from aligned ambition and pushing you towards misaligned ambition, right? Or you could call it insecure ambition or should-based ambition, right? But that's a force that's always going to be acting on you to be like, oh, but like they're doing something so cool. They seem further along and they're doing that and I'm doing the wrong thing, right? It's not going to take over your life, but it is a constant force that will kind of keep tugging at you and poking at you as you go through your life. And that's one of the reasons that you have to consciously and continuously create a life of aligned ambition, why you have to consciously monitor, wait, hang on, but this is my purpose. This is my scorecard. This is what I'm aiming for. And so yes, they're doing that thing. They just became a partner at McKinsey, but like, I know what I'm solving for. I'm solving for being a really present parent for my kids and being able to, and investing in my marriage and being able to work out. And that's why I work as a director of corporate strategy and not as a partner at McKinsey. And I feel really good about that choice, right? I'm making that up as an example. So that's reason number 1, why you have to consciously and continuously create aligned ambition. It's because societal defaults and your peer group and compare and despair will keep poking at your brain and pulling you to one side. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2 that you have to consciously and continuously create a life of aligned ambition is your own automatic brain, right? And just the pieces of wiring in there that will tend to pull you away from it. These are just things like most of our brains have a little bit of a negativity bias. They tend to not notice what's going well. They tend to really zoom in on potential problems and what's not going well. And you'll sort of have a lopsided view of how well things are going in your life. That's very normal. Most people are this way. Your brain will also often kind of shave down what it thinks is possible for you because it's just trying to protect you from failure. It's trying to protect you from embarrassment or rejection. And so it'll be like, oh, don't aim for that big thing. Let's reasonable. Let's logical, right? Your brain will also generate inertia and, a desire to kind of just do what's easiest in the short term versus what's maybe harder in the short term, but ultimately gets you the results you want in the long term. None of this stuff means that you are lazy or undisciplined or that anything is wrong with you. This is how your brain is supposed to work, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of the concept of the motivational triad, but it is the way that your brain super quickly, your automatic brain, the way it will tend to make decisions about what to do. If you just leave it alone and you don't kind of manage it or direct it, your brain will tend to say, okay, how do I seek pleasure, avoid pain, and minimize effort, right? Those are the 3 points of the motivational triad. And if you leave your automatic brain totally unsupervised, that's where it'll tend to go. It'll be like, well, let me do the thing that's like low effort and is pleasurable and non-painful, right? That's how our brains work. That's a good thing. Evolutionary biology has brought us here because it preserves energy and it keeps us safe and it keeps us out of these short-term unpleasant experiences. So nothing is wrong with your brain because it operates that way. All our brains operate that way. But if you just let your automatic brain make all of your decisions without being a little bit supervised and a little bit managed, it will also pull you away from a life of aligned ambition. Because doing the big things that you want to do often requires like overriding some of those, like, hey, let's just do the easy thing. Let's just do the inertial thing. But also doing it your way requires bravery and courage and, going beyond like, well, here's the limiting things that I think are possible for me. Here's my sort of kind of negative, pessimistic view that my brain has about my situation and how well I'm doing. Doing it your way and doing the big things you want to do requires moving past some of the automatic wiring that all of our brains have. So that's reason number 2, why a life and a career of aligned ambition have to be consciously and continuously created. And the third reason for this is the general chaos of life. Life is busy. Stuff is constantly happening, right? And I often think about my life is relatively less busy. I'm single. I don't have children. My family and my parents are in good health. I don't have like major crises or things that I'm dealing with. And still, I feel really busy all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do all the stuff for my BAU business. I'm doing the 100 failures and I'm changing this about how I'm putting out content. And oh, this client problem just came up and like this thing and that thing. I feel like I'm always busy and I'm probably the least busy person out of anyone because I feel like a lot of my clients are even busier because they have really demanding corporate jobs and they have young kids that they're taking care of and they have a spouse that they are also, managing and working with, and their parents might not be well and they might be traveling and going on vacation and there's a leak in your basement and there's all these things that are constantly happening, right? Chaos of life is the third reason why you have to consciously create a life of aligned ambition, because if you don't, all these things that pop up will just pull you in a million different directions. And so if you don't have a clear sense of, okay, but this is my purpose, these are my priorities, this is what matters and this is what doesn't matter, this is my operating model to make consistent and effective progress, to optimize my productivity and performance, and this is how I fuel myself in a way that keeps me going and doesn't burn me out. If you don't have those puzzle pieces like set up and in place, the chaos of life can pull you in 3,000 directions. And then you can wake up one day and be like, what the hell did I just do for the last 10 years? Right? So those are the 3 reasons why a life and a career of aligned ambition really has to be consciously and continuously created. It doesn't just happen. And it's not something that you just kind of strategize about once at a retreat and then, you set it and forget it. This, by the way, is why I put out so much content and why I put out content on an ongoing basis, right? I'm really trying to align the help I give you in the structure that I think you need it. And I think the structure that you need it in is like continuous small doses, right? You don't need one big macro dose. You don't need one big download and then you're good forever. It's not like a vaccine, right? Where you just give you the vaccine one time and then you're done. You're set for life. You're immunized, right? It's not like that. It's more like vitamins, right? Where it's like you need a little bit every day, or it's like working out, right? Working out or being healthy. You can't just like do one 8-hour workout and you're set for the whole month. I wish that was true. That's not the case. You have to get in the gym. You have to do a little bit every day to maintain your fitness. And it's the same thing with living a life of aligned ambition. You can't just, do 1 2-week retreat. You can't just do one single thing. And if that was true, right, if I could just give you one big macro dose, I would do it, right? I would do it. And then I would send you off and I'd be like, awesome, now you're going to live an awesome life and I don't have to worry about you anymore. But the real structure of how this happens is that it's similar to working out, similar to maintaining your health. It's micro doses every day or every week. It's not one big macro dose all at once, which is why I set up my free coaching program, all my content in this way, where it's not just one big chunk of content and then you're done forever, but it's all these little micro doses so that it can kind of keep your brain on track and in alignment all along the way. So that's why a life of aligned ambition has to be continuously and consciously created, and how I try to help you do it. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is what are the specific points where you might need a little more concentrated support, right, in doing this. So I think, by the way, I think coaching is awesome. I have a one-on-one coach. I talk to her every single week. If there's ever a week where we don't talk because of travel or holidays or whatever, I am like sending voice notes to her being like, I still need to talk to you about stuff. I'm a huge believer in coaching on sort of a maintenance basis. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey with coaching. So I initially worked with a one-on-one coach for 3 or 4 months. It was a fantastic engagement. I literally texted at her afterward and I was like, I feel like I got $100,000 worth of value from this coaching engagement, which I did not pay $100,000 for, right? But I was like, this gave me so much value because it really helped me get clear on what was not working in the job that I was in, what I wanted to do instead, which was launch my coaching business. And I got my coach certification. I started putting out content. It was a massive transformation for me. So I worked with that one-on-one coach for 3 months. She was amazing. And then I was in my coach certification program. And so I was practice coaching with all the other coaches in my cohort every week. And there were 9 other people. So I would do like 9 hours of coaching every week. And that would be like, some of it would be I'm coaching them and some of them would be them coaching me. So I'm getting multiple hours of coaching on my brain every single week. It was a lot. I was like, my brain has never been so clean. I'm literally like looking for stuff to get coached on. It was like, we have cleaned out every single like closet and drawer in my brain, right? While I'm in this coach certification. And then I had a time period where I didn't have a coach at all. Right. And so I'd finished the certification, I'd finished my one-on-one coaching engagement, and I was like, listen, I'm fixed. I'm solved as far as I know. Right. Like I've talked about everything. I resolved everything. I figured out everything. I'm done. And then I was very surprised to notice that I actually had like a slow decay, right, of my coaching progress and all the things I'd figured out and my mindset and my effectiveness, my stress, productivity, performance, and purpose. All those things kind of started to decay. And initially I was really angry at myself because I was like, what the heck? I thought I did all this work. Like, why am I screwing this up? Why am I going backwards? And then I finally realized it's a little bit like having a fitness routine or brushing your teeth, where it's like, you can't just have one big macro dose. You have to do a little bit every day to like keep it maintained. And so that's when I started working with my one-on-one coach that I work with now, and we work together every single week. And I foresee doing that for the rest of my life. So all of that is a long prologue to say I'm a huge fan of coaching at all moments in life, at all times, and just as a maintenance practice. And let me give you the 3 specific times when I think it can really be helpful to have a coach. So if you're not someone who's in the practice of regularly working with a coach, which most of my clients aren't, most of my clients, it's the first time they're working with a coach is with me. And so if you're not in that practice of like, I just have a coach all the time, and you're like, well, when would I start this, right? When's the moment to really get this going? Let me give you the 3 moments in somebody's career that I find that it's really helpful to get that extra coaching support. One is what I'm going to call inflection points, right? That is when you need to level up your leadership and level up your performance where you are, right? And I think inflection points actually come in 2 different flavors. Flavor number 1 is you're actually ascending to a new level of leadership, right? You either have been promoted to a new level, or you're aiming to be promoted to a new level, or you're transitioning to another role, which is like, okay, you're changing jobs, but it's like a level up the new job that you're going to, right? It's basically like, we need to level up. I need to level up my leadership, level up my seniority. I'm either moving into that role or I'm aiming to move into that role. And so that's kind of inflection point, kind of flavor number 1 is a level up. That's what usually most people think of when they think of like inflection points and leveling up. There's a second kind of inflection point, which I think is like less sexy, but just as important, which is you may not necessarily be leveling up at work, but you're leveling up in your personal life, right? A lot of times this is when people become new parents for the first time and they're like, wow, this is a large new work stream that has opened up in my life, right? It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It's physically very demanding. And so you become a new parent, or sometimes it can be something else. It could be aging parents, or just another, like a health issue that you yourself are dealing with. But I really think about that as like, you now have a new massive work stream that's opened up in your life that you now need to balance with work. And you usually want to do kind of the same quality work that you've been doing all along. That's a different kind of inflection point that I think is equally important, which is I need to now do more with less, right? I need to maintain maintain at 80% the performance I had at work while giving significantly less time and mind share to it, because I now need to give a lot more time and mind share to my parenting, to my personal life, to my health, whatever else it might be. So those are the 2 flavors and inflection points that I see with my clients. One is just leveling up actually at work, ascending to the next level, kind of becoming more senior in your leadership. The other one is I'm actually not necessarily changing things at work, but I'm leveling up in my personal life, which means I also have to level up at work in terms of delivering those same results, but with less kind of effort and time put in. So that's kind of scenario 1, or kind of situation 1, when it can be really helpful to invest in coaching is inflection points, right? You are now leveling up to a new level of performance and doing more with less. That's scenario 1. Scenario 2, where I think it can be really helpful to invest with a coach, is I call them decision points. This is when you're trying to figure out, what is it that I'm doing next in my career, right? Sometimes this can be, am I staying or am I going in my job, right? So you haven't even decided that you're necessarily going to leave, but you're like questioning, is this the right job for me? I'm actually not sure. And then if I'm leaving, I'm not sure what else I would do. So that's one kind of decision point. Another kind of decision point can be when someone is thinking, I definitely want to leave this job, but I'm not sure exactly what I want to do next. I have a few different options, or I'm just completely not even sure. I want to kind of start from the ground up and really think about what else am I going to do, because I'm sure that it's not this. Or a third kind of decision point can be someone who has some offers on the table, right? Or they have very concrete kind of different paths that they could follow. And so it's less about the self-exploration of like starting with a blank sheet of paper and figuring out what they want to do, and more about, hey, no, I have some really concrete options. Help me think through what makes the most sense as the next step in my career. So those are some examples of decision points, but it's really about deciding, okay, hang on, before I start leveling up, right? Or before I start transitioning, let me even just get really, really clear. What am I solving for? And like, what's the thing that we're doing next? Are we staying here? Are we doing something else? Are we picking path 1, path 2, path 3? Decision points. So that's a second scenario where it can be really helpful to get some coaching support, is at a decision point. And then the third scenario where it can be really helpful to get some coaching support is transition points. So this is now, you've made the decision, you have some sense of like, okay, this is the new place I'm trying to go. Now you actually have to make the transition to get there, right? And if this is recruiting into a new job, it's networking and doing coffee chats and interviewing and all those things, and then deciding between offers. If you are launching your own venture, launching your own startup, which I've helped clients do, then it's much more about pitching, building the product, prototyping the product, fundraising, all those things. And then I've also helped clients who are kind of starting portfolio careers, right? So they're not necessarily starting a tech startup, but they are going independent, and then they're doing independent consulting, they're doing coaching, they're doing fractional work, et cetera. And so same thing, kind of developing their product, pitching it, networking, et cetera. Transitions are all about like conversations, communication, interaction, taking this like precious baby that you have in your head of like, which is the role that you want to do next, or the kinds of projects you want to take on, or the business that you want to launch. It's like taking that precious baby and bringing it into contact with the real world. With other people, right? And explaining it to other people, explaining it why you're a great fit, why you're an awesome, like person to work with or hire or whatever it is, and then getting the feedback from the real world, and then being like, oh, okay, how do I like explain what I'm trying to do better and not kind of be torn down by, if people don't react the way I want to. So transitions are really all about conversations, interaction, communication. And that's another place where it can be really helpful to have some coaching support to help you, first off, just like make a plan, have some structure, some accountability, and stick to the plan, even when things get busy. But then also plan and prepare for these conversations, figure out how to even get them on your calendar, how to reach out to people, do the conversations, and then kind of do these after action reviews and figure out how you need to adjust what you're doing. And then gathering enough data so that you're like, I really gave this a shot, but also like once I've tried a certain amount of times, I'm also clear that it's time to pivot if it ever comes to that. So that's just the overview of, if you're not someone like me who is like so convinced about the value of coaching and has seen the demonstrated value of it in your life, where you're like, I just need it all the time. I just talk to a coach every single week, no matter what. If you're not like me, which is totally normal, most of my clients aren't, then I wanted to give you some help in thinking through what are the moments when it's helpful to have some extra coaching support, which is really inflection points when you want to level up where you are. Decision points when you want to get really clear and make a great decision about what it is you want to do next, and then transition points when you're actually navigating the transition and all the conversations to get you over to where you want to be. I'll give you a fourth scenario where I think coaching support can be really helpful, which is when you just don't know, when you're just like, all I know is like something's not working. And I don't know if it's a me problem or a job problem. I don't know if I need to level up here or I need to be doing something else. I don't know. All I know is something's not working and I'm just feeling stuck. I'm feeling stuck in figuring it out. I'm feeling stuck in pinpointing what the issue is. I'm feeling stuck in solving this. Something's not working and something's got to change. That is the fourth scenario where I think it is awesome to bring in some coaching support, especially if you've been in that place for more than like a week or two, right? Because when I work with my clients generally on a weekly basis, sometimes bi-weekly. And so I always tell people, if you're stuck for more than a week or two, bring in a coach, right? Because you're never going to be stuck for more than that time with a coach, because we're going to be talking every week or every 2 weeks and getting you unstuck, right? So if you're just like, something's not working, I don't know what it is, I can't pinpoint the issue, I'm just feeling stuck, that's the fourth scenario where it's awesome to bring in a coach and get some extra support, especially if you've been feeling that way for more than a couple of weeks. Which, by the way, it brings me to the last thing I want to talk about. So this is a resource that I'm putting together. It is still in progress. It's going to come out maybe at the end of January or maybe early February. So TBD when it's coming out. But I am so excited to share it with you. It is called the Aligned Ambition Audit: 4 Questions for Career Clarity. And it is for people who are in that exact situation I just described, where you're like, something's not working and I can't figure out what it is. and it helps you super systematically and super quickly figure out what the root cause is of what's getting you stuck and what's keeping you stuck and what you need to do about it. I am so freaking excited for this resource. You guys are going to love it. I have worked so hard to really make it laser sharp and focused so that it helps you get to the root cause as quickly as possible. And I also have made it so it's super easy for you to do. You don't have to answer a million questions. You're literally going to have to answer 4 questions. And I'm going to tell you when you learn more about this, you don't even have to answer them in a super detailed way. You have to answer them in what I'm calling your visceral first reaction. Your visceral first answer, that's actually what you have to capture. That's super easy. Your visceral first reaction comes to you immediately, right? So I've worked really hard to make it super laser focused and diagnostic and diagnostically effective, and to make it super easy, so easy, no effort for you to do it. Literally just jotting down the first things that come to your head, and for that to really generate real clarity for you about, oh, got it. This is what's keeping me stuck. This is the exact root cause issue. This is the top priority thing I need to solve, and this is what I need to do to go solve it. That resource is coming soon in a few weeks. I'm so excited to share that with you guys, but especially since I was talking about that feeling of all I know is something's not working and I don't know what it is. Or if you're hearing me talk about inflection point, decision point, transition point, and you're like, I don't even know which of those I'm at. I'm at step 0 where I need to figure out which one of those is even my problem or which one of those I need to focus on. Don't worry, that resource is coming really soon. It's called the Aligned Ambition Audit, 4 questions for career clarity. I'm so excited to share that with you guys. Okay. That is it for our first podcast episode in this new format where I am not scripting everything out ahead of time. I just had a couple of talking points and I'm just sharing with you live. I'm really excited to be doing this with you guys, honestly. I'm excited to do something that is a little scary for me. It's scary to do something new, but I think is going to be easier on my calendar and easier on kind of me and my growing my business, and also even more effective for you guys in terms of delivering the help that you need, making it easy for you to absorb and just keep me in your ears, and kind of be listening in the background while you're doing other things, and giving you really awesome samples of what it's like to work with me, to give you that total clarity and certainty where if the time comes and you're like, I really need some coaching, you're going to know for sure, is it with me, is it with someone else, what's going on. So super fun. I just had a great time. And I'm really excited to keep doing more of these with you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Aligned Ambition podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and share this podcast with anyone you know that you think could use it. If you'd like to explore working together in a one-on-one coaching engagement with me, book a free consult call at poojavcoaching.com/contact. You can grab that link in the episode description. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or topics you want me to cover in this podcast, shoot me an email at pooja@poojavcoaching.com. You can grab that in the episode description too. Talk to you soon.